All right, prepare to have your world rocked by the leadership legend himself, Bill Goodwin. As a certified member of the John Maxwell Leadership Team, Bill isn't just talking the talk, he's walking the walk alongside one of the most influential leadership gurus of our time. For over 30 years, Bill has been electrifying individuals, organizations on stages, leaving a trail of empowered leaders in his wake. Brace yourselves, because when Bill Goodwin steps up to the mic like he's doing today, someday becomes right now, and dreams transform into action plans. Please welcome on the show, Bill Goodwin. Bill, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, Jared, that's so kind of you. And it's so great to be with you.
I'm excited for this conversation. We have crossed paths a number of times in the last 6 months to a year, and you're a rock star, brother. And let's just get the ball rolling. Priority living. What does that mean?
Well, there's a story behind the name of my company. As you said, Priority Living Consulting Group. Priority living really is all about maximizing every moment of every day. And Jared, it goes back to a story coming up on 25 years ago, November 23rd, 1999. I was 28 years old, so do the math. And I was living in Arizona at the time. And longer story, I'll give you a short version. I had an experience where I had a severe asthma attack, which led to respiratory failure, and I died. And I had an encounter where, this is kind of intense, but I had an encounter where my spirit left my body, and I encountered the afterlife. I encountered heaven, and I was, of course, resuscitated, or I wouldn't be sitting here today. But November 23rd, 1999 should have been on my tombstone. I shouldn't be here right now. And so now for 25 years, I have been implementing in my own life and living what I call the 7 pillars of priority living. And so priority living really is all about maximizing every moment. And it lines right up with Life-Undeferred. And so that's what I'm all about. I want to help other people, encourage, coach, provide opportunities for other people, the listeners that are tuning in today, to live the abundant life. And that comes with priority living.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't want to just scuff over your near-death experience there. And by the way, I did not know that about you. Holy cow, dude! Like, what the? let's rewind just a hair.
It's kind of jumping in the deep end, I tell you, right there, right out the gate.
I thought we were going to talk about goal setting, but we're going to talk about your near-death experience. Just before we scuff over that, and again, we have a limited amount of time, so I want to spend the entire time on that. But obviously, and we could do an entire show just on that, I'm sure. But just talk about because I haven't studied this, but I've listened to a lot of podcasts, read books on this. I find it fascinating. And that stuff edifies my faith, by the way. And again, that's another podcast for another time. But people that have those experiences, they more times than not come back very changed, with a brand new perspective, a brand new set of eyes, without spending hours talking about this. Give us kind of the bullet points as to what happened, what you experienced, and why that shifted your paradigm so much.
Boy, we need to do a whole show on this one. So what happened in those moments that I coded, my spirit left my body, and I just say to you, Jared, that the afterlife is so much closer than we think it is when we're here in the natural. We think heaven is so far, like it's on another planet. It's actually like a veil between here and the afterlife, is what I experienced. And I explained it more recently last October. Again, I was in Arizona, and I went skydiving for the first time with my mom, because she wanted to skydive for her 80th birthday. So she asked if I'd go with her. So I went, and of course there can be a reasonable fear for being 12, 14,000 feet in the air and just falling out of a perfectly good plane. But what happened for me was, just in a moment during that free fall, there is a moment where there's anticipation and fear. And then there's a moment where there's complete exhilaration. And this is the best thing I've ever experienced in my life. And so since October, all these years, I've tried to describe kind of the transition from this life to the afterlife. And I finally found it. It's just like that fear that we can have of even death. In a moment, we're no longer in our physical state, of course, but our spirit lives on, and we're in heaven. So I had an encounter in heaven, the most amazing encounter with angels, and the bright light. People have heard about the bright light. It's so intense. And I am a person of faith, and my faith became sight that day. And the angels parted, and in the distance, coming towards me was the source of the light. It was Jesus, and he was coming towards me with his arms outstretched. And I want to just tell you the whole story. I don't have time to get into the whole thing here, Jared, but it was absolutely glorious. And I don't know. It was no sense of time. I don't know if it was a couple seconds, minutes, but I was unconscious, not coded, but I was unconscious for 9 hours from when I went unconscious to when I coded. And then I was put in a medical-induced coma when they revived me. And then it was a total of 9.5 hours later that when I actually woke up in ICU, intubated, and I experienced a miracle that day. And one that I love to tell people about. It gives us hope. So there's so much more to that story. Wow. I just want to be respectful of our time, but it did change me. And that's kind of your question you asked. It absolutely changed me, that I realized that at 28 years old, I mean, there's no guarantee of life. And I feel for those that are listening that say, man, I had a loved one that, something happened to them. Why didn't they get revived? I don't know. That's all in God's wisdom to know when there is a time to die and a time to be born and a time to die. But I can say that my experience absolutely changed me, where I want to be a person of priority living, because I recognize that every day truly is a gift.
That's incredible. And I'm embarrassed that I just admitted I've known you for quite a while. I didn't know that about your story. Holy cow. Dropping a bomb here.
Because I'm so excited to share it that I apologize I hadn't let you in on that.
No, don't apologize. That's a great bomb. But here's an interesting thought. Again, not to totally go off track, not to totally leave that track just yet. As I've listened to podcasts on near-death experiences, interestingly enough, I think this is a divine conversation we're having here. As I have learned about these and heard the testimonies, just like what you shared, my takeaway after hearing those is what we do on this side, like the way that we live matters. It really does matter. Talk about like that, like how we grow, how we evolve, what we do, the light that we shine, what we do with our skills, talents, and abilities. That matters, guys. And people need to hear that, right, Bill?
Absolutely. Oh. As people of faith, we know that that Jesus said that he's the light of the world, and that we as followers are to be salt and light. And salt makes things better, and light makes things brighter. And more now than ever, we are living in a lot of division and darkness. And so more now than ever, it matters. It matters how we live today.
Yeah. I love that. Let's transition leadership. You've worked with John Maxwell. You do currently. You're rubbing shoulders with him all the time. Talk about like leadership. It's a topic that gets talked about a lot. I don't want to say it's not over talked about, certainly, but it's a hot topic. It's a buzzword. I tend to correlate leadership with going out and elevating other people. How would you articulate that or incorporate that into your own story? Yeah.
I just love to adopt John Maxwell's definition of leadership, which is this: leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So we can influence. That's elevating, like what you were saying. We're elevators. We either take people up or we take people down. And just again to refer to John, his latest book, 89th book, by the way, that came out in May. It's called High Road Leadership. The subtitle, Bringing People Together in a World That Divides. So really, leadership is really all about our influence. And as we look at ourselves, as we look at the leaders around us in business, in our communities, in politics? Are they people who bring people up? Are they better because of their leadership, or are they brought down because of their leadership? And that's something that I'm always being mindful of about my own leadership.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I would echo that. I feel like when the world gets divisive, there's friction there. If you don't have the right mindset, that stuff will want you to act in such a way that cause more division. And to your point, again, even to what we talked about at the beginning with light, this is an opportunity to shine that light. Talk about the mindset that people should have going into, we're going into an election year and all of these things. What a great opportunity for you to shine light and essentially lead, like you've been saying.
Yeah. To lead or lift others up, it really starts with ourself. And sometimes the hardest person to lead is myself. And so we can't give away what we don't have. So we have to fill ourselves up. And so to be a person of personal growth, personal development, is where it all starts for me. If I'm not leading myself, it's very difficult for me to have a reservoir to lead other people with. So, so for me, I've become just intentional about reading books, about podcasts, about having mentors in my life, about attending events, seminars, conferences, etc., ways that I can get poured into so that I have a reservoir of something to give to somebody else. The fact of the matter is, Jared, it's stored up before it shows up. And so we need to be people that are always filling ourselves up so that we can fill others up. And that's where that positive influence comes from.
Yeah, you just mentioned like personal development, filling ourselves up. You live in this world of personal development, elevating other human beings, the human experience. And I'm interested to hear your take on this, because you take a very faith-driven perspective, but also a human empowerment perspective. This is just my opinion. I've noticed sometimes some friction between those two camps. How have you been able to bridge the gap where you're trying to elevate yourself, you're trying to elevate people, but yet you're still on a faith camp and a faith road where there's a higher power, so to speak? How do you mesh the two in your mind?
Yeah, well, I think that it starts with values. And so there's a whole list of values. I mean, you can just Google what are a list of values. But I believe that there's universal values that we as human beings, we accept. We accept things like honesty, integrity, respect. I mean, you can go down the list of values. And so for me, I bridge that gap between my faith and maybe more of a secular world by talking a lot about values. And at the end of the day, where do those values come from? The values come from Scripture. And I don't have to quote a Bible verse in order to speak of a value. But matter of fact, it's not just my faith, Christianity. It's basically all known faiths have some form of the golden rule: do unto others as you do unto yourself. I also like, more recently known as the platinum rule: do unto others as they would have you do unto them. So it's a matter of finding values. And when I value people, and then I want to add value to them, now I've given I've been given an opportunity to be an influencer for them, and then teach them other leadership principles that are all rooted and grounded in what I would call universal values. So I think that's where that bridge really comes in. As it's very obvious, I'm a person of faith, as you are, Jared, but I don't have to bang people over the head with my faith or whatever in order to live my faith. And more importantly, to come alongside people that maybe share something faith-wise different than I care about them, I value them, and I want to add value to them. And it's not based upon us having a similar faith. It's based upon having a desire to want to grow in those values.
Yeah, I agree. I love how you articulated that, because that to me is leadership. Like if people can understand their values, be rooted in that, and then leverage that to elevate other people, bring other people up, that essentially is leadership. Talk to the person that wants to grow, not only personal development, but they want to have more impact. They want to have more leadership. And again, you're not doing it from a stage like you do so often, or in front of corporations, or certainly on the big stages with John Maxwell, but the more of the person that doesn't have those roles. How can they be leaders, and how can they be elevators?
Yeah, really, at the end of the day, we're all leaders. You don't have to have a title to be a leader. You don't have to have a position to be a leader. All you need to be is one step in front of somebody else. So we're leaders in our homes. If you're a parent, we're leaders in our workplace. Even if we have supervisors or a boss over us, we can lead by being a person of influence, by being a person who displays values, who's got great commitment, who's got great attitude. Attitude is a difference maker. So there's a variety of ways in which we can lead. John Maxwell speaks about the 5 levels of leadership, and I won't get into all that right now, but just simply to say that, the first level of leadership is when you've been given a position. In other words, people follow you because they have to. But then level 2 is based upon a relationship that you form with those that you're leading. And now people don't follow you because they have to, they follow you because they want to, because there's relationship involved. And so on up the ladder goes of the levels of leadership. And I think that we can all find ourselves in different environments where we can lead somebody else, not just because of position or title, but because we have opportunity to be a positive influence in their life.
Yeah. And again, leading is, it's not dragging people along for the ride. It's living in such a way that they want to follow. It seems like if I've taken that paradigm in my life, even of my family, children. I mean, for example, raising kids in today's world is difficult. I have 4 of them, and I can't. I've learned, even as a father who's trying to figure it out, I really can't force my kids. I can, but I don't want them to follow me out of force. I want them to follow me because they see something in me, and that doesn't happen overnight either. There's a longevity piece that is at play here, where you got to be doing this a long time, and you got to be doing it consistently. Talk about that for a second.
Oh, I love consistency. That's one. Even Tom Brady, I think I posted today or yesterday, Tom Brady talks about how you don't have to be special to be great. You just have to be consistent. And that's often what most people aren't. It's consistency. I love this phrase: consistency compounds. So you go and work out. You're a health nut. I love that. You go and work out one time, that'll get you sore. It'll get you started. But it's the consistency of that workout that you start to see a difference in your health, in your physique. And because at the end of the day, consistency compounds. You can apply that to any area of our life. You can apply that to your finances. When you work a plan called a budget, and you save and you invest, and you don't overspend, consistency compounds. You might not change your financial situation in a day or a week or a month, but over a period of months that you're consistent, you'll have a totally different financial landscape. And relationships, health. All of these areas, it's all comes down to the discipline of consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we call it the small win in the Life-Undeferred camp. It's the same way. It's stacking up those wins, and I don't want to disrespect people or sound trivial here, but I tend to believe your life can look drastically different in 6 months. It can look radically different in a year or 2.
Absolutely.
And the roadmap isn't that difficult. To build a business, to have a great marriage, to have a healthy body. But again, to your point, the hard part is it's not doing it once. It's not even doing it 30 times. It's doing it 365 times every day for the next year, right?
That's right. So if your listeners take away one thing I say on this is it, right? What I'm about to say right here. So don't miss this. Friend, everything worthwhile is uphill. Everything worthwhile is uphill all the way. And the reality is many times we have what I would call uphill hopes, but we have downhill daily habits. So what we do daily, there's where the consistency comes in. What we do daily is the difference maker in our life, because once we realize the truth of what I just said, that everything worthwhile is uphill all the way, it totally changes our perspective. Mm-hmm. So an example, I would run, I don't know, for the last 10, 12 years, I would run 2 to 3 miles about 2-3 times a week. 2 summers ago, I was out there running and I thought, I wonder how far I could actually go. Like, I've never thought about going farther than the 2 to 3 miles. And that day I went 5 miles. And the only reason I stopped running, Jared, was because I had to get home and shower and get to an appointment. The next day I was so excited, like, oh my gosh, I've limited myself because I thought, well, I can't run farther than 2 or 3 miles. And so I began on this journey of running many times 2 summers ago, 7, 8, 10, 13 miles, not because I was training for anything, but just because I had a different mindset. And I realized that, you know, it might be a little difficult, but if I push through, I can achieve more than I thought I could. Well, unfortunately, I got an injury in probably caused by my running, but I've kind of come back around and nursed that. And now I'm out enjoying running again. But it's that way for anything in our life. It's once we set our mind to it and we realize, okay, this might take longer than I thought. It might cost more money than I thought. It might, it might have some challenges along the way. If I realize that everything worthwhile is uphill all the way, I've got a totally different mindset, and now I can push through and accomplish whatever we set before us as a goal, a dream, a desire.
Yeah. I love that, man. You're speaking my love language here. You're a big growth guy. Transformation is key. I just posted something about that really recently here, just talking about how transformation is really the key. I have seen the most momentum in my life, not just spiritually, financially, relation. I mean, just go right physically. I mean, like, even I've had physical transformations when I was transforming in other areas of my life, especially when it comes to my mind. Make the connection again, because you said it there. Everything, you have to say it again, but everything good is uphill, right? Yeah, but like, make that
worthwhile is uphill all the way.
Exactly. So, like, again, give people another shot in the arm here of, like, the hard things, the challenges that we may think that's the enemy attacking me. Could it possibly be the divine giving you on the platter something to conquer out of love for you to develop and grow? Does that make any sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. We're like a rubber band, and that's one of the laws of growth. Just to shout out to John Maxwell, he has a book. One of his 89 books is called The 15 Undeniable Laws of Growth. And one of the laws is the law of the rubber band. If we are not stretching, we are not growing. So often we think, well, I just want to grow. Well, we go through challenging times. Another law is the law of pain. We develop, we grow the most in the seasons and the moments that are challenging or even painful for us. So don't push those things away. I think so often, and yet as I get older, I just want more comfort in my life. I want the comfortable chair. I want the comfortable car. I want more comfort in my life. But what I'm realizing is, it's okay to have things that are comfortable, but I have to continually get myself in opportunities and situations where I'm not comfortable, because if I'm only comfortable, I'm not growing. I guess that's why they call it your comfort zone. Everything that you want in life is outside of your comfort zone, or you'd already have it by now. So we have to keep stretching and growing in order to achieve those things that are outside of our comfort zone.
Mm. I love that. And I want to start landing this plane. And maybe this is the best way to do it, to bring this full circle back to our conversation, your story at the beginning. But like, this isn't a one and doneer. It's not a, okay, cool. Like I got there, I don't think that that's the life God calls us into. I don't think it's the one that we are most happy with, where we just hit cruise control. Speak to that person that's maybe, going through a midlife crisis like me. That's another story. But somebody that 50, 60 beyond, like you had a near death experience. I had a midlife crisis and COVID. that's a whole other story. But like that person that believes that it's too late. I mean, obviously I know what you're going to say, but like, I mean, where would that person start? That person that feels stuck, what can be some tangible thing that they can even do today to kind of get that momentum back and that feeling of growth back?
Yeah, there's two thoughts to that, or maybe two different tracks. One is, I personally don't think we should set a finish line. And that's why I get a little challenged when I hear, I think it's great, work hard your life, save up, and move to that day of quote unquote retirement. But when you retire, you're done. And I've seen more, especially men, that have retired, and within 6 months, maybe less, after that retirement, they've taken a few trips, they've golfed as much as they can golf, and now they're bored. And their wife's saying, "What are you going to do for the next 20 years of your life?" And they end up going back and finding a way to be purposeful again. It might even be driving a bus for the school district, which is great, or something to get out of the house and get doing something. So first and foremost, I'd say when we set deadlines for things, we often end up just even mentally checking out and going, well, I've completed it, I'm done. And so even in our health goals or whatever, it's like we want to have a growth mindset versus a goal mindset, because a growth mindset says, even when I've reached my goal, I keep on growing. And there's a lot more I can unpack about a growth mindset. But basically, I think that's a really key thing for us to consider in our life, is not having any predetermined finish lines or deadlines, because we can just keep moving forward and keep growing. The other part to what you said there, let's see, I'm trying to remember. It was about the person that feels stuck. And I've been there. Oh my goodness. I have been in those moments where I felt like, is in certain areas, maybe it's in my work life, my professional life, maybe it's in some relationships or whatever. And I think one thing that I would encourage you to do is find a trusted person that you can talk to. It might even be a counselor, a therapist. I've had a therapist in my life. It really has helped me a lot. Maybe find a coach, somebody like Jared, somebody that can come alongside you and be a personal development coach or a business coach that can help you kind of move from where you are to where you want to be. And then I say surround yourself with the right kind of input, and that can come through books, it can come through podcasts, it can come through getting in some networking groups, whatever it might be for you to get you in a different situation. I often say we have to do something different to get something different. And sometimes we just keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And we know what that's the definition of. That's the definition of insanity. So do something different, even if it's one thing today or this week, and you'll begin to get out of that sense of being stuck. Because, friend, you're not stuck. Maybe that sense of being stuck is just because you're going to go in a different direction, and there's new opportunities, and you can make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Oof. Powerful stuff, brother. And I love it. I'm getting chills here listening to you talk about this, because I've seen it in my own life. If I change my mindset, I change the inputs, I put in good stuff, I get surrounded with what I call heck yeah friends, which, by the way, you're a heck yeah friend of mine.
Oh yeah. Heck yeah.
The dream, and it's not even the dream life. It's not the dream life of luxury and leisure. It's a life of fulfillment and exhilaration. I think that is so much closer than what people think. But when you're stuck, and as you know, and I felt that as well, it feels so far away, and it gives people hope and empowerment, like you just said, to know that it's not as far away as what you think it is. And that's a great message.
Yeah, I think this is a Tony Robbins quote, possibly. Basically, don't overestimate what you can do in a week or a month, but don't underestimate what you can do in a year. And I think that's part of it. We just have to get started, right? And if even this conversation we're having, Jared, for the listener out there, maybe you're driving, maybe you're out on a walk, whatever it is. If you're just hearing this and you say, just get started, just move one step forward in one area of your life, you won't be stuck anymore. And like you said, you can look back in 6 months and go, oh my gosh, I have a different life than I used to have.
Mm-hmm. I love that, brother. Great stuff, man. I hope that everybody listening to this has gotten their fill. A lot of juicy nuggets in here, and we could do another show, certainly a part 2, probably a part 3. I want to hear more about that near-death experience too. But for now, I want to land this plane. Before I let you go, Bill, let people know where they can find you and follow you.
Yeah. Well, I'm on social media. You can find me just at my name, Bill Goodwin, on LinkedIn. From a business standpoint, you can also find me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is Bill Goodwin Speaks. And then my website for Priority Living Consulting Group is PriorityLivingCG.com. That's Priority Living Consulting Group is what it stands for, but it's PriorityLivingCG.com. And my email and phone number are right there on LinkedIn and on the website as well. So feel free to reach out. If I can serve you, if I can add value to you personally as a coach, or you have an opportunity for a speaking opportunity, or even to come and do a training for your team, I'd love to serve you however I could. So appreciate that. Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, you bet. And Bill's a powerhouse. And take it from me, that dude's a rock star and a rock star on stage. So take him up on this offer, connect with him, and look him up for sure. Bill, appreciate your time today, man. Great to chat. Love you, brother. And let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely.